Rule number 1 of the Dark Woods: never corner an alpha. Mina broke that rule. She hunted the beast to the edge of the continent, pinning him against a sheer drop into a boiling ocean. He owed her blood. He took the only family she had left, and she came to collect. Armed with nothing but a wooden broom and crackling witch magic, she prepared to strike down the deadliest shifter in the territory. He should shift. He should bare his fangs and tear her apart. Instead, the monster just stared at her muddy boots. Chapter 1. Rain crashes against the jagged rocks. The storm tears through the night, throwing sheets of cold water across the cliff. Mina stands near the edge. She grips the smooth handle of her broom. Water drips from her eyelashes and runs down her jaw. 10 feet away stands Briggs. He wears a dark leather jacket and a blank expression. He does not flinch as the wind howls. "You killed him!" Mina shouts. Her voice cuts through the roar of the ocean below. "You took my mentor! I know it was you, Briggs! You led the raid on the coven!" Briggs wipes rain from his forehead. He sighs. He looks down at her boots, then back up to her face. "Mina, your laces are untied. You should really double knot those in this kind of weather. The mud out here is slick. A guy in my pack broke his ankle out here last month because he wore loafers. Who wears loafers to a cliff?" "Shut up!" Mina steps forward. She raises the broom. The wood thrums with leftover magic. Sparks of blue light dance along the bristles. "Stop talking about shoes. You murdered the only family I had left. I came here to end this." "I didn't kill him," Briggs says. He points a finger at the broom. "And that is a very nice oak. Did you polish it? You know, linseed oil does wonders for the grain. It keeps the moisture out. If you don't treat the wood, the sea salt will rot it from the inside out. I know a guy in town who sells a great wax blend. I can give you his card." "I don't want a card!" Mina screams. She grips the handle with both hands. "I want justice. I want you to pay for what you did." "I'm trying to tell you I didn't do it." Briggs takes a step closer. The wind whips his dark hair across his eyes. "You have the wrong guy. And honestly, standing on a wet rock with a stick is a terrible combat strategy. You have zero leverage. If you swing that, your center of gravity will shift and you will slip. Did I mention the mud?" Mina screams in frustration. She lunges. She swings the broom with all her strength, aiming right for his jaw. Briggs does not dodge. He brings his hand up and catches the wood mid-air. The smack echoes over the cliff. The blue sparks fizzle out against his palm. He holds the broom tight. He does not even blink. "See?" Briggs says. "Now you are off balance." Mina tries to yank the broom away. Briggs holds it steady. He pulls the wood toward him, bringing Mina forward. Her chest hits his jacket. He smells like cedar and rain. She glares up at him, her breathing ragged. "Let go of my broom," she snaps. Briggs stares down at her. His eyes flash gold in the dark. His jaw tightens. He opens his mouth to speak, but the words seem stuck. He blinks, looking confused. "My wolf says you should stop swinging that stick and ride me instead." Mina freezes. Her mouth drops open. "Excuse me?" Briggs widens his eyes. A flush creeps up his neck. "Wait, no, he meant my back. He meant you should ride on my back, because he wants to carry you. Don't look at me like that. I didn't say it, he did. My wolf is an idiot. He lacks social grace." "You are insane," Mina says. She tugs the broom again. "Let go of me." "I can't let go right now. If I let go, you will fall backward into that puddle, and then you will blame me for ruining your cloak." Briggs shakes his head. "Look, we do not have time for this. The people who actually killed your mentor are coming. They tracked you here. We have about 2 minutes before this cliff turns into a bloodbath." "Why should I believe a word you say?" Mina glares at him. "Because if I wanted you dead, I would not be offering you a ride," Briggs says. He glances over her shoulder. His golden eyes narrow. "And because I hear footsteps. A lot of them. They do not wear loafers either." Mina turns her head. Through the sheets of rain, dark figures emerge from the tree line. They wear thick cloaks and hold crossbows. The metal weapons gleam in the storm. Great, Briggs says. He finally lets go of the broom. They brought the silver. My wolf is going to hate this. Stay behind me and try not to trip. Chapter 2. The dark figures fan out across the rocks. There are 6 of them. Shadow shifters. They move in silence, lifting their heavy crossbows. Get down! Briggs yells. He grabs Mina by the shoulder and shoves her behind a large boulder. A second later, a silver-tipped bolt strikes the stone where she just stood. The metal sparks upon impact, chipping the rock. They use silver? Mina asks, crouching low. Yes, they use silver, Briggs grumbles. He rubs his jaw. It is very rude. Silver burns us. It stops our healing. It is a terrible weapon. Who even sells that much silver? The economy is terrible right now. Another volley of bolts flies through the rain. One bolt slices through the air, heading straight for Mina's face. Mina brings her broom up to block. The silver bolt hits the oak handle. The wood cracks loud and sharp. The bolt embeds itself deep into the grain. The magic inside the broom sputters and dies. The handle splinters right down the middle, breaking into 2 useless halves. Mina stares at the broken pieces in her hands. My broom! I told you to treat the wood, Briggs says. He peeks around the boulder. Now it is ruined. Do not throw the pieces. We need a distraction. I am going to draw their fire. You use that witch fire of yours and fry them. It is not called witch fire, Mina snaps. It is a hex. Whatever it is, make it hot. Briggs rolls out from behind the boulder. He moves like a blur. He dashes across the wet rocks, drawing the shadow shifter's attention. 3 crossbows turn and fire. Silver bolts streak through the rain. Briggs twists and ducks. He slides under the first bolt, jumps over the second. He moves faster than human eyes can track, but the rain makes the ground slick. His foot slides on a patch of wet moss. The third bolt grazes his left bicep. Briggs yelps. He stumbles and grabs his arm. The fabric of his jacket sizzles. Thick, foul-smelling smoke rises from the cut. The silver burns his skin on contact. Ouch! Hey! Briggs shouts at the attackers. That is my favorite jacket. Do you know how hard it is to find leather that fits my shoulders? Mina drops her broken broom. She steps out from behind the rock. She raises both hands toward the sky. She chants a sharp, harsh string of words. The air around her hands grows hot. Purple flames erupt from her palms. The fire dances and twists in the rain. She thrusts her hands forward. The purple fire shoots across the cliff in a wide arc. It hits 2 of the shadow shifters. They scream and drop their crossbows. The flames do not burn their clothes, but the magic scorches their nervous systems. They collapse onto the rocks, twitching. The remaining 4 attackers step back in fear. They reload their crossbows, hands shaking. Briggs looks down at his smoking arm. He slaps the burn with his right hand. Stop smoking, he tells his arm. It is embarrassing. I look like a cheap barbecue. Are you okay? Mina yells over the storm. I am fine, but my wolf wants to rip their throats out. He is very upset about the jacket. Briggs glares at the remaining attackers. And I agree with him for once. We need to leave. They will just keep shooting until one of us looks like a pincushion. My broom is broken, Mina says. I cannot fly. I know it is broken. I saw it break. It was very tragic. Briggs runs back to her. He grabs her elbow. We take the trail. There are too many of them to fight in the open with this much silver flying around. Run! He pulls her toward the tree line. More bolts hit the mud behind them. Mina forces her legs to move. She leaves the splintered wood on the rocks. They dive into the dark forest just as another purple fireball leaves her fingers, covering their escape. Chapter 3. The forest is pitch black. The thick canopy blocks the storm, turning the rain into a heavy, cold mist. Mina cannot see 2 feet in front of her face. She keeps her arms out, trying to feel for trees. Her boots slide in the thick mud. Slow down, Mina gasps. Her foot catches on a thick tree root. She trips forward, falling hard onto her knees. Mud splashes up her shins. Briggs stops and turns around. He navigates the dark woods without trouble. His golden eyes glow in the blackness, taking in every detail. He sees the roots, the rocks, and the sharp branches. "You walk like a newborn deer," Briggs says. He walks back to her. He looks down at the mud on her knees. "I told you to tie those boots. Now your pants are ruined. This entire night is an absolute disaster for fashion." "I cannot see anything," Mina snaps. She pushes herself up, wiping mud from her palms. "It is dark. You have wolf eyes. I do not. I am blind out here." Briggs sighs. He reaches his right hand out to her. He offers it flat, palm up. "Here, take my hand. I will guide you. My night vision is perfect." Mina looks at his hand. She hesitates. She hates him, but she hates falling in the mud even more. She reaches out to take his fingers. Before she touches him, Briggs yanks his hand back. He presses it flat against his own chest. Mina glares at him. "What are you doing?" Briggs scowls. He taps his chest. "My wolf wants to carry you. I told him no. I told him we are walking like normal people, but he is being a real jerk about it. He keeps telling me you are fragile and need to be held. It is very demeaning to both of us, so I cannot hold your hand. If I hold your hand, he will try to pick you up." "Your wolf is an idiot," Mina says. "I know," Briggs agrees. "I tell him that every day. He has zero boundaries. He wants to coddle you. He says your knees look sad. Who calls a knee sad?" "Just point the way," Mina says, gritting her teeth. "I will follow your voice." "Fine. Walk directly behind me." Briggs turns around and starts walking. "Step where I step. Lift your feet high. There is a log coming up in 3 paces. 1, 2, 3. Step over." Mina follows his instructions. She lifts her foot and steps over the unseen log. She lands safely on the other side. "Good job," Briggs says. He keeps walking. "The shadow shifters will track us. They smell my blood. The silver burn is oozing. It smells terrible. I hope it does not scar. Scars make me look uneven." "Where are we going?" Mina asks. She keeps her eyes on his broad back. "We need to put distance between us and the cliff," Briggs says. "Then we need to find shelter. And then I need you to listen to me about your mentor. Because I have proof that Lord Corvus from the Uptown district gave the order, not me." "I am not listening to any of your lies," Mina says. She ducks as a low branch scrapes her shoulder. "It is not a lie. Lord Corvus wants all the witches gone. He pays in silver." Briggs stops walking. Mina bumps into his back. She rubs her nose. "Why did you stop?" "Because the ground stops here," Briggs says. Mina peers around him. The forest opens up. A deep ravine cuts through the earth. Below them, a river rushes with violent speed. The gap across the ravine is 20 feet wide. There is no bridge. There are no ropes. "We have a problem," Briggs says. He looks down at the black water. "We cannot jump this in human form, and you do not have a broom anymore." Chapter 4. The wind howls through the ravine. The drop is steep and dangerous. Mina steps near the edge. Small rocks crumble under her boots and tumble into the black water far below. She swallows hard. "We are trapped," Mina says. She looks back at the dark tree line. "The shadow shifters will catch up. We cannot fight all of them without weapons." "We are not trapped," Briggs says. He rolls his shoulders. He reaches for the zipper of his leather jacket. "I can jump this, but I have to shift, and you have to ride." Mina stares at him. "You want me to get on your back?" "Yes," Briggs says. He pulls his jacket off. He winces as the fabric pulls away from the silver burn on his arm. The wound looks raw and angry. "It is the only way across, unless you want to stay here and argue with men holding crossbows. I highly suggest the wolf ride. It is much safer." Briggs unbuttons his shirt. Mina turns her head away, staring at the trees. "You do not have to look away," Briggs says. He drops his shirt onto the mud. "My wolf likes it when you look. He thinks he is very impressive. He works out a lot." "Shift before I push you off the edge," Mina says to the trees. She hears the heavy sound of bones cracking and snapping. It is a wet, brutal noise. A low growl vibrates through the ground. The sound of tearing fabric follows. Mina turns back around. Briggs is gone. In his place stands a giant black wolf. He is as tall as a horse, with thick, coarse fur and muscles that bunch under his coat. His golden eyes shine bright in the dark. The silver wound sits on his front left shoulder, a patch of burnt fur and red skin. The wolf looks at Mina. He whines softly. He steps forward and nudges her hand with his wet nose. "Stop that," Mina says. She rubs her hand on her cloak. "Just get down so I can climb up." The wolf huffs. He lowers his heavy frame to the mud. Mina steps close. She grabs handfuls of his thick black fur. It feels coarse but warm. She throws her leg over his back and settles behind his shoulders. The wolf feels like a furnace. The heat radiating off him cuts through the chill of the rain. Mina leans forward and wraps her arms around his thick neck. "If you drop me, I will haunt you." The wolf lets out a short bark. He stands up. Mina grips tight with her knees. The height is dizzying. The wolf steps back from the edge of the ravine. He digs his heavy paws into the mud, finding his grip. Then he runs. He charges toward the cliff edge. His powerful legs launch them into the air. Mina squeezes her eyes shut. The wind roars in her ears. She feels weightless for one terrifying second. Then the wolf crashes down onto the opposite side of the ravine. His paws hit the dirt hard. He slides slightly, then catches his balance. Mina opens her eyes. They made it. The dark river flows harmlessly below them. The wolf trots forward into the woods. He moves with a smooth, loping stride. Mina relaxes slightly. The ride is not as bumpy as she expected. They move fast through the trees, putting miles between them and the ravine. The rain stops. The forest floor becomes dotted with large, still puddles. Suddenly, the wolf stops. He stands perfectly still. "Why are we stopping?" Mina whispers. She looks around the dark woods. "Do you smell them?" The wolf does not growl. He simply lowers his head. Mina leans over to look. The wolf is staring at his own reflection in a large puddle of water. He turns his head to the left, then to the right. He raises his ears, then flattens them. "Are you serious?" Mina asks. "Are you checking your fur?" The wolf lets out a small whine. He looks at her in the reflection. The wolf shimmers, bones snapping in a wet crunch. A second later, Briggs sits in the mud, completely naked and shivering. "He wants to know if he looks tough enough," Briggs says out loud, pointing a thumb at his own bare chest. "I told him he looks like an over-pampered dog. He is very offended." Mina covers her eyes. "Shift back and keep running before I hex you." "You are both ridiculous," Mina says. She smacks the wolf on the shoulder. "Keep moving. We need to find a cave before sunrise." The wolf snorts, shakes his coat, and breaks into a run again. Chapter 5. The black wolf slows his pace. Rain beats down on the forest canopy, dripping through the leaves in thick, cold drops. A jagged wall of rock rises ahead. A dark opening cuts into the stone, a cave. The wolf limps slightly, favoring his front left shoulder where the silver burn festers. They enter the dry dark of the cave. Mina slides off his back. Her knees shake. Her muddy boots hit the stone floor with a dull thud. The wolf steps away into the shadows. Bones snap and crunch. A wet tear echoes off the walls. A moment later, Briggs steps back into the faint light bleeding in from the storm outside. He is completely naked. "Shift back!" Mina covers her eyes with her muddy hands. "Or put something on!" "I left my clothes on the cliff," Briggs says. His voice echoes. "And my wolf doesn't want to shift back. He says he likes the cold air. Also, he says you're peeking through your fingers. Stop peeking, or keep peeking. He's very conflicted." "I'm not peeking." Mina turns around, facing the damp cave wall. "You're an alpha. Act like one. Find a leaf or something." "Leaves are itchy," Briggs mutters. He sighs, a heavy, wet sound. Fine, give me your cloak. My cloak is ruined. I don't care, I'm cold. Mina unclasps the heavy, muddy fabric from her shoulders and tosses it behind her. She hears Briggs catch it and wrap it around his waist. You can turn around, Briggs says. Mina turns. Briggs sits on a large, flat rock. The muddy cloak covers his lower half. His broad chest is bare. The silver burn on his left bicep looks worse in the dim light. The skin is blistered, raw, and angry red. The smell of scorched flesh fills the small space. We need fire, Mina says. She walks to the center of the cave. A pile of old, dry branches sits in a hollowed-out dip in the stone. She points a finger. Ignis! A spark of purple flame shoots from her fingertip and strikes the wood. The branches catch fire, casting dancing orange light against the rock walls. Briggs leans toward the heat. He hisses as the warmth hits his silver burn. Lord Corvus gave the order. Mina freezes. She stares at the flames. Corvus? Yes, the Uptown Lord, Briggs says. He gestures with his good arm. Corvus wants the witches gone. He controls the silver trade. He armed those shadow shifters. I have track records of his shipments crossing the border. He uses a shell company out of the merchant quarter to distribute silver-tipped quarrels to rogue packs. He pays them in pure gold bullion to raid covens. Mina sits on the stone floor across the fire. Why would Corvus care about covens? We stay in the woods. We don't bother the Uptown elite. Briggs leans forward. His golden eyes reflect the firelight. He speaks with sharp, tactical precision. Because the Uptown lords are losing their longevity. The magic in the city grid is failing. Corvus figured out how to siphon raw magic from living witches to power their estates and keep themselves young. Your mentor found the schematics. He knew Corvus built a drainage facility beneath the city. That's why Corvus sent the raid. He needed your mentor dead before the council found out. Mina grips her knees. The truth hits her hard. Briggs tracks shipments. He knows the Uptown political landscape. He didn't kill her mentor. He used a silver blade. Briggs continues, his voice dropping. A ceremonial dagger. I found the body. The wound had silver flakes in the edges. Wolves don't use silver. It burns us, just like this stupid arm. You tried to save him, Mina whispers. I arrived too late, Briggs says. He stares into the fire. He looks dangerous, brilliant, a true alpha plotting a war. Then he sniffs the air. His nose twitches. You smell like wild berries, Briggs blurts out. Mina blinks. What? Briggs slaps a hand over his own mouth. He groans. He drops his hand and glares at the ceiling. My wolf. He ruined the moment. I was giving a very smart, very intimidating political breakdown. And my wolf just decided to announce that he likes the way your hair smells. Wild berries. He wants to know what shampoo you use. He wants to buy a crate of it. I hate him. Mina lets out a short, breathless laugh. She can't help it. The man is a walking disaster. It's just soap, Briggs. Don't encourage him. Briggs scowls. He rubs his good hand over his face. If you talk to him, he thinks you're flirting. He's wagging his tail right now, in my head. It's humiliating. Mina shakes her head, staring at the fire. We need to get into Uptown. We need to stop Corvus. We will, Briggs says, his tone turning serious again. But first, we need a map. The drainage facility is hidden. I might have something, Mina says. Welcome back to Linas' Romantasy Collection, where the alphas are fierce and the heroines always fight dirty. Quick question for the pack before we jump into the chaos today. Where are you listening from right now? Let me know in the comments and drop a broom emoji if you would rather fly away from your problems today, or a wolf emoji if you feel like biting someone. Today's story is a wild ride. It is funny, it is full of action, and it features a very grumpy witch dealing with a feral alpha who just cannot keep his mouth shut. But before the fur flies, if you want to support the channel and get early access to bold stories like this, hit that join button down below. It helps keep the magic flowing and the amazing stories coming. Now, grab your headphones and settle in. The witch is angry, the alpha is in deep trouble, and the sparks are about to fly. Let's read. Chapter 6. Mina reaches into the deep pocket of her ruined trousers. Her fingers brush against cold metal. She pulls her hand free and holds out a heavy gold object. It's a locket, thick and covered in strange, jagged scratches. I grabbed this from his study, Mina says. She stares at the gold face of the locket. Right before the fire spread. He always wore it. He told me it held the key to the city's true foundation, but I can't open it. Briggs scoots closer to the fire. He drags the muddy cloak along the stone with him. He reaches out his good hand. Let me see. Mina hesitates, then drops the heavy gold into his palm. Briggs brings the locket close to his face. The firelight catches the jagged scratches. He narrows his golden eyes. He traces a thumb over the marks. These aren't scratches, Briggs says. This is old-world runic script, a cipher. You align the outer edge of the gold casing with the inner rim based on the lunar cycle. He presses his thumb against the edge. A sharp click echoes in the cave. He twists the front face of the locket to the left, then clicks it to the right. The metal shifts. The front panel pops open. Mina stares in shock. I tried to open that for 3 years. Briggs looks up. He hands the open locket back to her. Inside sits a tiny, folded piece of parchment. You lack the tactical vision for puzzles. The runes translate to a grid coordinate. The parchment is a localized map of the Uptown sewer system. It leads right under the Corvus estate. Mina unfolds the tiny paper. A complex web of lines and dots covers the page. You read ancient runes? I read everything, Briggs says. He leans back against the cave wall. I spent 10 years tracking Corvus. I learned the merchant codes, the old-world ciphers, the architectural layouts of the Uptown sectors. I know the patrol routes of the city guards. I know the exact rotation of the vault shifts. Mina looks at him. For a moment, she sees the lethal alpha underneath the chaos. He's a predator who spent a decade planning a hunt. Briggs catches her stare. His jaw tightens. His golden eyes dilate, turning black for a split second. He clears his throat. Sorry. For what? Mina asks. For being too smart, Briggs says. He rubs the back of his neck. My wolf thinks I'm showing off. He says nobody likes a know-it-all. He says I should do a trick to make you smile instead of talking about sewers. Do you want to see me catch a fly with my teeth? Mina drops the map into her lap. Are you serious? I'm dead serious, Briggs says, his expression pained. There's a fly buzzing near the cave entrance. He wants me to jump up and snap it out of the air. He thinks it'll impress you. Please tell him no. I don't want to eat a bug. I'm the alpha of the Crescent Pack. I don't eat insects. Don't eat the fly, Briggs, Mina says, fighting a smile. Briggs lets out a long breath. Thank you. He's sulking now. He says you don't appreciate raw athleticism. Mina folds the map and tucks it back into the locket. She closes the gold clasp and puts it in her pocket. So, we follow this map into the sewers. But we can't walk into Uptown looking like this. You're naked under my muddy cloak. I look like a swamp monster. There's a village 5 miles east, Briggs says. He points toward the cave entrance. A fringe settlement. We head there at first light. We steal some clothes. We find a healer for this burn. Then we move to the city. We can't just walk into a village, Mina says. Corvus will have bounties on us. The shadow shifters survived. They'll spread word. I'll handle the village, Briggs says. He closes his eyes and rests his head against the stone. Get some sleep, Mina. I'll take first watch. Mina looks at the fire. Her bones ache. The storm outside rages on, thunder shaking the stone walls. She lies down on the hard floor, keeping her distance from the naked alpha. She expects him to say something annoying. She expects his wolf to demand a cuddle. Instead, Briggs stays silent. He watches the cave entrance, his posture rigid and alert. He guards her. Mina closes her eyes. The heat of the fire warms her muddy clothes. For the first time in years, she feels safe. Chapter 7. The storm breaks just before dawn. Pale morning light filters through the wet trees. Mina steps out of the cave. Her clothes are dry but stiff with caked mud. Briggs walks out behind her. He still wears her ruined cloak tied around his waist. He carries a bundle of rough fabric in his good arm. "Where did you get that?" Mina points at the bundle. "I took a walk while you slept," Briggs says. "I found a clothesline outside a logger's cabin down the ridge. I left a gold coin on the stump to pay for them. Turn around so I can dress." Mina rolls her eyes and turns toward the trees. She hears the rustle of fabric. "Okay, done," Briggs says. Mina turns back. Briggs wears a loose, rough-spun gray shirt and dark brown canvas trousers. The clothes are too big, hanging off his broad frame. The left sleeve is torn off at the shoulder, leaving his blistered silver burn exposed. He hands her the muddy cloak. "I ripped the sleeve so the fabric doesn't rub the burn," Briggs explains. He points down the trail. "The village is a mile ahead, Oak Haven. It's a rough place. Smugglers, bounty hunters, outcasts. We need to blend in." "How do we do that?" Mina asks, tossing the ruined cloak over her arm. "We act like we belong," Briggs says. He starts walking down the muddy path. "Keep your head down. Let me do the talking. Don't use any magic. If anyone asks, you're my mate. We're traveling looking for work." Mina stumbles over a root. "Your mate?" "Yes, my mate." Briggs catches her elbow to steady her. "It's the best cover. Nobody asks questions about a mated pair. Alpha wolves are possessive. People avoid eye contact with our mates to prevent fights." They walk the remaining mile in silence. The trees thin out, revealing a cluster of wooden buildings huddled in a muddy valley. Smoke rises from stone chimneys. The smell of roasting meat and stale ale hangs in the damp morning air. They walk down the main dirt road. A few locals eye them from wooden porches. Men with scarred faces and thick leather boots pause their conversations as Briggs walks past. Briggs squares his shoulders. He walks with a heavy, dominating stride. His golden eyes scan the street with lethal intent. He looks terrifying. They approach a large tavern at the end of the road. A heavy-set man stands outside the door, sharpening a hunting knife. He looks up. His eyes drag up and down Mina's muddy figure, lingering on her waist. A deep, vicious growl rips from Briggs's chest. The sound vibrates through the mud. It's a pure, feral threat. The heavy-set man pales. He drops his gaze to the dirt and takes a quick step backward, pressing himself against the tavern wall. Briggs pushes the tavern door open and guides Mina inside. The room is dark and smells of cheap ale. They take a table in the back corner, hiding in the shadows. Mina leans across the sticky wooden table. "That was intense." Briggs rests his elbows on the wood. He rubs his temples. His terrifying demeanor vanishes. "Sorry. My wolf is a very jealous guy. He didn't like the way that man looked at you. He wanted to bite the guy's nose off." "You played the part well," Mina whispers. Briggs leans closer. He drops his voice to a hushed, frantic whisper. "He wants to buy you a cow." Mina blinks. "A what?" "A cow," Briggs repeats. He looks miserable. He says a cow is a good, sturdy gift for a mate. It provides milk. It shows I'm a good provider. I don't know why he wants a cow. We live in a forest. A cow would get eaten by a bear in 2 days. But he's screaming at me to go find a livestock trader. Mina covers her mouth to hide a laugh. "Tell him I'm lactose intolerant." "Witches aren't lactose intolerant," Briggs argues, and he knows that. He says you need calcium. Please don't laugh. This is a very serious crisis for him. He wants to prove his worth, and he settled on bovine agriculture. "We need supplies, not a cow," Mina says. She points to a grumpy barmaid walking toward them. "Order some food. I need a bandage for that burn." "I'll order meat," Briggs says, sitting up straight, "and I'll ask about a healer. But if we pass a farm on the way out of town, I can't make any promises about the cow." Chapter 8. The barmaid drops 2 plates of roasted chicken and bread onto the table. Mina pays her with a copper coin she digs from the deep pocket of her muddy trousers. They eat in silence. Mina tears into the bread, her hunger overriding the stale taste. Briggs eats fast. He rips the chicken from the bone with his teeth. He finishes his plate before Mina finishes her first slice of bread. "There's an apothecary down the alley behind this tavern," Briggs says, wiping grease from his mouth. "The barmaid told me. We slip out the back door. We buy burn salve. We leave Oakhaven before the shadow shifters catch our trail." Mina nods. She finishes her food and stands up. Briggs leads the way. They exit through the tavern's rear door, stepping into a narrow, muddy alley. High wooden walls box them in. The air is thick with the smell of wet garbage and rot. Briggs walks 3 steps, then stops dead. He throws his good arm out, catching Mina across the chest to halt her. "Don't move," Briggs whispers. Mina freezes. "What is it?" Briggs tilts his head back. His nostrils flare. He takes a short, sharp breath through his nose. "Silver." He points toward the ground 10 feet ahead. Stretched across the alley, ankle high, is a thin, barely visible wire. It gleams dull gray in the dim light. "A tripwire," Briggs says. His voice is cold. "Silver core, tied to those heavy barrels stacked on the roof. If we trip it, 100 pounds of wood and iron crush us. An assassin trap." A low chuckle echoes from the roof above them. A man steps to the edge. He wears a dark green cloak and holds a loaded crossbow aimed directly at Briggs. "The alpha of the Crescent Pack," the assassin sneers. "Lord Corvus pays a heavy bounty for your head. The shadow shifters lost you, but I knew you'd hit the fringe towns." "You string a wire in an alley like a coward," Briggs growls. "Come down here." "I think I'll just shoot you from up here," the assassin says, raising the crossbow. "Mina," Briggs mutters out of the side of his mouth. "Do the thing." Mina steps out from behind Briggs's arm. She doesn't look up at the roof. She looks at the wire spanning the alley. She points her index finger at the thin metal line. "Funde," she snaps. A bright flash of purple sparks erupts from her finger. The sparks hit the center of the tripwire. The silver core glows white-hot, then instantly turns to liquid. The wire snaps. The liquid metal hits the mud with a harsh sizzle. The tension releases. On the roof, the heavy barrels shift, groaning against their broken restraints. The assassin looks down in horror as the barrels roll forward. "Wait, no!" The barrels crash over the edge of the roof, taking the wooden ledge and the assassin with them. They hit the alley floor with a deafening crash, splintering into pieces right where the trap was set. The assassin lies pinned under the wreckage, groaning in pain. Briggs stares at the melted wire in the mud. He blinks. He turns his head and looks at Mina. His golden eyes are wide. "That was incredible," Briggs breathes out. "Just a basic melting hex," Mina says, shaking her hands to cool her fingertips. "It works on weak metals." Briggs stares at her face. A dopey, awe-struck grin spreads across his jaw. "My wolf wants me to tell you something." "Let me guess," Mina says, stepping over the puddle of liquid silver. "He wants to buy me 2 cows now?" "No," Briggs says. He follows her, step carefully over the broken barrels and ignoring the trapped assassin. He walks right beside her, his voice dropping an octave. "He wants to tell you that you look stunning when you're melting things." Mina trips on a loose cobblestone. She catches her balance, her cheeks burning hot. "Tell him to shut up." "I can't," Briggs says, looking distressed as they reach the end of the alley. "He's howling in my head. He says your eyes got all fierce and your posture was perfect. He says destruction suits you. He's writing a poem about it. Oh no, it rhymes." Mina groans and walks faster, heading for the main road out of the village. "I'm going to hex your mouth shut." "Please do," Briggs begs, jogging to keep up with her. "He just rhymed fire with desire. It's terrible. Save me from my own brain, Mina." Chapter 9. The forest thickens the further east they walk. The pale morning light struggles to pierce the dense canopy of ancient pines. Mina marches ahead, her muddy boots sinking into the soft earth. She keeps one hand in her pocket, fingers wrapped around the heavy gold locket. Behind her, Briggs's footsteps grow ragged. He walks barefoot over the pine needles and exposed roots. Normally, a wolf's hardened soles handle the terrain without issue, but the silver poison is working its way through his bloodstream. Mina stops and looks back. Briggs leans against a moss-covered oak. His breathing sounds wet and shallow. Sweat beads on his forehead, pasting his dark hair to his skin. The torn left sleeve of his stolen gray shirt hangs limp. Beneath it, the silver burn has spread. Angry red veins spiderweb outward from his bicep, climbing over his collarbone and creeping across his bare chest. "We need to stop," Mina says. She walks back to him. "No stopping," Briggs grunts. He pushes off the tree. He takes 2 steps and his knees buckle. He hits the forest floor hard, landing in a pile of dead leaves. Mina drops to her knees beside him. She touches his right shoulder. His skin burns like a furnace. The foul stench of scorched flesh radiates from his left arm. The silver infection is raging. "You have a fever," Mina says. She looks around the dim forest. A cluster of damp ferns grows near a trickling stream a few yards away. Beside the stream, broad green leaves with serrated edges sprout from the mud. Bitter root. "Don't move," Mina orders. She scrambles toward the stream. She rips a handful of the bitter root leaves from the mud. She grabs some damp moss and a handful of yarrow flowers. She carries the bundle back to Briggs. Briggs stares up at the canopy. His golden eyes look cloudy. "My wolf says the sky is spinning. I told him he lacks focus. We need to maintain a perimeter." Mina sits beside him. She places the leaves on a flat stone. "I need to make a poultice. This is going to smell terrible and it will sting." She points her finger at the pile of herbs. "Funde!" A small spark of purple magic hits the leaves, breaking down the tough fibers. Mina uses a smaller rock to mash the weeping leaves and moss into a thick, dark green paste. The sharp, pungent stench of swamp rot fills the air. It smells like stagnant water and decay. She scoops the stinky paste with her fingers. She leans over Briggs. She presses the foul-smelling mush directly over the angry red veins on his chest, working her way up to the blistered burn on his bicep. Briggs groans. His head lolls to the side. "You know, when I was 7, I fell into a badger hole." "Hold still," Mina says, pressing the poultice deeper into the wound. "I was stuck for 3 hours," Briggs babbles, his voice thick with delirium. "My father was furious. He said alphas do not fall into holes. But the hole smelled like dirt and worms. I like worms. They mind their own business. Unlike my wolf. My wolf is screaming right now. He hates this green sludge. He says it smells like a swamp." "It draws out the silver," Mina says. She wipes her messy hands on her muddy trousers. Briggs blinks up at her. He reaches up with his good right hand and pokes the green paste on his chest. He grimaces. "It is disgusting. He says the herbs do not taste as good as your skin." "Wait, no, do not look at me like that. I did not say that. He said that. He is a creep." Mina pauses. A flush rises to her cheeks. She grabs a strip of clean fabric she tore from the hem of her shirt earlier and binds it around his bicep to hold the herbs in place. "Your wolf needs to go to sleep." "He refuses to sleep," Briggs rambles, his eyes fluttering shut. "He wants to stay awake and watch you. He wants to count your freckles. I told him you are covered in mud and we cannot see your freckles. He told me to fetch a wet cloth. I am the alpha of the Crescent Pack. I do not fetch." Mina ties off the bandage. She pulls her ruined cloak from her shoulders and drapes it over his shivering form. "Rest, Briggs." "I am not tired," Briggs whispers to the trees. "I am just resting my eyes. Let me know if you see a cow. I still need to buy you a cow." His head rolls to the side, and he finally passes out. Chapter 10. The morning sun filters through the pines, casting long, golden shadows across the forest floor. Mina sits on a fallen log, tossing a pine cone from hand to hand. She spent the night watching the perimeter, jumping at every snapped twig. A loud groan breaks the silence. Mina drops the pine cone and stands. Briggs sits up, throwing her muddy cloak off his chest. He rolls his shoulders. The rough canvas trousers slide against the dead leaves. He touches his left bicep. The swelling is gone. The angry red veins have vanished from his chest. The stinky green poultice did its job, pulling the silver poison from his blood. He looks down at his bare feet, then up at Mina. His golden eyes are clear and sharp. The fever is broken. "I feel excellent," Briggs says. He stands up. He squares his broad shoulders, jutting his chin out. He drops his voice into a low, rumbling baritone. "The silver is purged. We move out in 5 minutes. I will take point. Corvus will not see us coming." He looks dangerous, a lethal predator ready for war. Then a loud thump echoes behind him. Mina tilts her head. "What was that?" Thump, thump, thump. Briggs's eyes go wide. He twists his neck, looking over his shoulder. Sprouting from the base of his spine, tearing right through a seam in the stolen canvas trousers, is a heavy, bushy black wolf tail. And it is wagging, fast. It hits the dead leaves behind him, kicking up dirt and pine needles. Thump, thump, thump. Briggs grabs the tail with both hands. He wrestles it against his leg. "No! Stop it, bad wolf!" Mina crosses her arms. She bites the inside of her cheek to stop from laughing. "Are you partial shifting?" "I am not doing this," Briggs hisses through his teeth. The tail fights him. It wiggles free from his grip and starts wagging again, smacking against a tree trunk. "He is doing this. He woke up, saw you sitting there, and lost his mind. He is so happy you did not leave us while we slept. I told him alphas do not wag their tails like golden retrievers. He does not care." "It is a nice tail," Mina offers. "It is a humiliating tail," Briggs shouts. He spins around in a circle, trying to catch it again. He looks like a dog chasing his own rear end. "I was doing a very intimidating pose. I was projecting command and authority. This ruins the entire aesthetic." Briggs groans in defeat. He drops straight down onto his backside, trapping the bushy black tail beneath his weight. He crosses his arms over his chest and glares at her. "There," Briggs says, his face red. "Problem solved. We will conduct the morning briefing from a seated position." Mina laughs out loud. She shakes her head and pulls the gold locket from her pocket. She walks over and sits on a rock near him. "Fine, let us review the map. If we keep heading east, we should hit the outer drainage tunnels of Uptown by midday." Briggs uncrosses his arms. He leans forward to look at the locket, careful to keep his weight on his tail. "The sewer grates are heavy iron, not silver. That is good. The silver plating does not start until the inner city walls. We use the tunnels to bypass the perimeter guards. We find the central magical conduit, and we smash it." "And Corvus?" Mina asks. "I handle Corvus," Briggs says. His voice turns cold. "He sent men to kill you. I will tear his throat out for that. My wolf agrees, see? We can be a united, terrifying front." Mina looks at the alpha sitting in the dirt, wearing a stolen, ripped shirt, fighting his own tail. "Terrifying?" "Do not mock me," Briggs says, though a small smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. "He is writing another poem about your laugh right now. You do not want to hear it. He rhymes chuckle with belt buckle. It makes no sense." Mina stands up. She pockets the locket and picks up her muddy cloak. "Get up, Briggs. We have a city to burn." Briggs sighs. He shifts his weight, pulling the magic back. The tail vanishes with a soft pop. He stands, dusting leaves off his trousers. "Lead the way, Mina. My feet are freezing." Chapter 11. The trees begin to thin out. The smell of pine fades, replaced by the sharp, metallic tang of the city in the distance. The ground turns from soft dirt to cracked cobblestones. They are nearing the edge of the Uptown district. Mina pulls the gold locket from her pocket. She traces the runic scratches, checking their direction. A sudden jolt of electricity zaps her fingertips. She drops the locket with a gasp. It hits the cobblestones. Purple sparks shoot from the gold casing. The sparks swirl upward, forming a small, twisting tornado of light. The light expands, taking the shape of a tall, thin man wearing a long academic robe. His hair is slicked back, his posture rigid. It is a translucent, glowing projection of her dead mentor, Master Elias. Mina steps forward, her breath catching. "Master Elias?" The glowing ghost turns its head. It does not look at her. It looks straight at Briggs. "Fascinating," the ghost of Elias says. His voice echoes, sounding like wind through a tunnel. "A contingency spell triggered by proximity to the Uptown grid. It seems my essence was recorded before my demise." Briggs steps in front of Mina, shielding her. He drops into a defensive stance. "You left a magical recording in a locket. Clever. Tell me about the drainage facility. Tell me where Corvus hides the main conduit." The ghost floats closer to Briggs. It tilts its head, inspecting him. "Who are you?" "I am the Alpha of the Crescent Pack," Briggs says, keeping his voice firm and commanding. "I am investigating the witch murders. We are going to infiltrate Corvus's estate and burn it to the ground. Give me the tactical layout." The ghost squints. "You are an Alpha?" "Yes," Briggs says. "You look like a vagabond," the ghost says flatly. "Your shirt is torn, you have no shoes, and your hair is a total disaster. Do wolves not own combs? You have a leaf stuck above your left ear." Briggs freezes. He reaches up and pulls a dead pine needle out of his hair. He scowls. "I was injured in combat. We slept in a cave. My grooming is not the priority right now. The tactical layout, Elias." The ghost circles Briggs, floating a few inches off the ground. "I expected Mina to find an educated wizard, or perhaps a skilled rogue. Instead, she found a stray dog. Have you bathed this week? Your aura smells of damp earth and bad decisions." "Listen here, you glowing battery," Briggs snaps. He points a finger at the ghost. "I spent 10 years tracking Corvus while you hid in a tower. I survived a silver bolt. I carried your apprentice across a ravine. I demand respect." "Respect is earned through proper posture and clean footwear," the ghost replies smoothly. He turns his glowing eyes to Mina. "Mina, dear, why are you traveling with a barefoot ruffian? He lacks the intellectual refinement required for an Uptown infiltration." "He kept me alive," Mina says, stepping around Briggs. "Master Elias, please, how do we bypass the vault locks?" "The vault locks require a specific magical frequency," the ghost says to Mina, his tone softening. Then he glares back at Briggs. "A frequency this flea-bitten brute could never comprehend. He would likely try to bite the lock." "I do not bite locks," Briggs shouts at the ghost. He rubs his temples. "Mina, make him stop. My wolf wants to chew on his glowing robe. I am losing my temper." "You are losing your dignity," the ghost retorts. The purple light begins to flicker. The projection wavers, static crackling through the image. "The grid interference is too strong," the ghost says, his voice breaking up. "Mina, do not trust the gold. The conduit is beneath the southern plaza. Find the weeping gargoyle, and for the love of magic, buy this man a pair of boots." The purple light collapses. The sparks suck back into the gold locket. The cobblestone path goes quiet. Briggs stares at the locket on the ground. His chest heaves. "I hate him. My wolf hates him. We both agree he deserved to get stabbed. A leaf in my hair? He is a hologram and he insulted my hair." Mina bends down and picks up the locket. She dusts it off and drops it into her pocket. A huge smile breaks across her face. "He is right. You do need boots." "I will bite a lock. I will do it just to spite him," Briggs mutters, stomping barefoot down the path. "Come on, we have a weeping gargoyle to find." Chapter 12. The trees break, giving way to a vast clearing. Mina and Briggs stand at the edge of the tree line, staring up at the perimeter of the Uptown district. A sheer wall of polished white stone rises 50 feet into the air. Spaced every 20 yards are towering, heavy iron gates. But it is not the iron that makes Briggs stop in his tracks. The entire surface of the white stone wall is laced with intricate, decorative veins of pure silver. The precious metal catches the pale daylight, gleaming with a bright, blinding polish. It forms twisting vines and family crests across the stone. Briggs sways on his feet. He takes a step backward, his bare heel hitting the dirt. Mina looks over at him. His face is pale. Sweat forms on his brow. The sheer volume of silver in the air acts like a toxic cloud to his senses. The smell alone is enough to make a wolf violently ill. "Briggs?" Mina asks, her voice tight with worry. Briggs swallows hard. He clenches his fists at his sides. He refuses to look weak. He forces a smile, though his golden eyes are tight with pain. "It is a bold architectural choice, very gaudy. I think the shiny stuff is hurting my feelings." "It is making you sick," Mina says. She steps between him and the wall, trying to block his view. "There is too much of it. We cannot climb that wall. You will burn alive before we reach the top." "We do not climb." Briggs forces the words out. His chest rises and falls in shallow, rapid breaths. "The locket. The map says the sewer grate is 50 paces west of the main road. The sewers are iron and brick, no silver. We just need to get underground." Mina nods. "I will lead." She takes his good right hand. Briggs flinches, surprised by the touch, but his fingers quickly curl around hers. His skin is clammy and cold. "My wolf says thank you," Briggs whispers. His voice sounds strained. "He says you hold hands very well. He wants to know if we can do this all the time." "Focus on walking, Briggs," Mina says. She pulls him along the tree line, keeping a safe distance from the silver-laced walls. She counts her paces. 40, 45, 50. She stops near a patch of overgrown thorn bushes. She pushes the branches aside with her muddy boot. Hidden beneath the thick foliage lies a heavy, rusted iron grate set into the ground. A foul smell of stagnant water and waste rises from the dark hole beneath it. "Found it," Mina says. Briggs lets go of her hand. He drops to his knees beside the grate. He grips the rusted iron bars with both hands. He pulls. The muscles in his back and arms bulge under the stolen gray shirt. With a harsh screech of metal against stone, the heavy grate lifts free. He tosses it onto the grass. He leans over the dark hole, breathing in the stench of the sewer. He looks relieved. "Ah," Briggs sighs. "That smells wonderful. Garbage and rot. So much better than the silver. My wolf is doing a happy dance. He likes the garbage hole." Mina peers down into the darkness. A rusted iron ladder leads down into the pitch-black tunnel. She cannot see the bottom. "Your night vision will work down there, right?" Mina asks, adjusting the muddy cloak over her shoulders. "Perfectly," Briggs says. He stands up. He looks much better. The proximity to the iron and the distance from the silver wall bring the color back to his face. "I will go first. I will catch you if you fall." He turns around and grabs the top rung of the ladder. He swings his legs over the edge, lowering himself into the dark opening. He stops when only his head and shoulders are visible above the grass. He looks up at Mina. A cocky, chaotic grin spreads across his face. "By the way," Briggs says, his golden eyes flashing, "my wolf wants me to remind you that we are going to be in a very dark, very tight tunnel together. He says no funny business. He is a gentleman. Mostly." Mina kicks a clump of dirt down the hole, aiming for his head. "Get moving, Alpha!" Briggs chuckles, a low, rumbling sound, and disappears into the dark. Mina takes a deep breath and climbs down the ladder, plunging into the shadows of the Uptown sewers. Chapter 13. The iron ladder groans under Mina's boots. She descends into the pitch-black shaft, leaving the pale daylight behind. The air grows cold and thick. The smell of stagnant water and old decay rises from the depths, coating the back of her throat. She reaches the bottom, her boots splashing into a shallow puddle of slime. "Watch your step," Briggs says. His voice echoes off the curved brick walls. "The floor is slick and disgusting. My wolf says my feet are freezing. He wants to know why the alpha of the Crescent Pack is standing barefoot in a puddle of mystery sludge." "Tell him to build a bridge," Mina mutters. She holds out her hand. "I cannot see a thing down here. Take my hand so I do not walk into a wall." Briggs grabs her fingers. His palm is warm, a stark contrast to the freezing sewer air. He leads her forward through the dark. They walk in silence for a long time. The only sounds are the drip of water from the ceiling and the soft slap of Briggs's bare feet on the wet bricks. "We need the locket," Briggs whispers, stopping at a junction of 3 tunnels. "I can see the paths, but I do not know which one leads to the gargoyle." Mina pulls the heavy gold locket from her pocket. She opens the clasp and traces a finger over the small parchment map. "Ignis," she whispers. A tiny spark of purple fire dances on her fingertip, casting a faint glow over the ink. She studies the lines. "Take the right tunnel, walk 200 paces. There should be a vertical pipe." Briggs nods. He leads her down the right tunnel. He counts his steps out loud, his voice a low rumble in the dark. At exactly 200 paces, he stops. He points up. Carved into the stone ceiling above them is a hideous, weeping gargoyle face. Water trickles from its stone eyes, dripping down a rusted vertical pipe. "That is the access point," Briggs says. He reaches up and grabs the iron rungs bolted to the brick wall beside the pipe. He climbs first, his broad shoulders shifting in the dark. Mina follows, her muddy cloak dragging behind her. At the top of the shaft, Briggs pushes against a square wooden hatch. It groans, then flips open. Pale light spills into the shaft. Briggs climbs through, then reaches down with his good right arm to pull Mina up. They stand in a sprawling laundry room. Stacks of white linens sit on long wooden tables. The smell of harsh soap cuts through the sewer stench. "We are inside the Corvus estate," Briggs says. He walks to a set of double doors at the end of the room and peers through the crack. "This connects to the guest wing. We need disguises. We cannot walk into a high society event covered in mud and smelling like a swamp." Mina looks down at her ruined clothes. "Where do we find clothes in a house this big?" "Follow me," Briggs says. He slips through the doors, stepping into a carpeted hallway. He moves with silent, predatory grace. He checks 2 doors before finding what he wants. He pushes a door open and gestures for Mina to enter. It is a guest wardrobe room. Racks of fine clothing line the walls. Silk gowns, tailored suits, and polished shoes sit organized by color and size. "Perfect," Briggs says. He walks straight to a row of men's suits. He flips through the hangers. He pulls out a sharp black suit with a tailored coat and dark trousers. He tosses them onto a velvet chair. Then, he drops to his knees and rummages through a row of shoes. He pulls out a pair of black leather boots. "Take that, Elias. I found boots." Mina walks to the women's section. She scans the colors. She skips the greens and yellows, her eyes landing on a deep, rich, plum-purple silk gown. The bodice is structured, the skirt flowing and elegant. It matches the color of her magic. "I will take this one," Mina says. She grabs the hanger. "Turn around." "There is a privacy screen right there." Briggs points to a folding wooden partition in the corner. Mina rolls her eyes and steps behind the screen. She strips off her muddy boots, her ruined trousers, and her torn shirt. She uses a dry towel from a nearby basket to wipe the mud from her face and arms. She slips the purple silk gown over her head. The fabric feels cool and smooth against her skin. She retrieves the gold locket from her muddy trousers, slips it safely into the structured bodice of her gown, and steps out from behind the screen. She steps out from behind the screen. Briggs is already dressed. The black suit fits his broad frame, though the coat stretches tight across his broad shoulders. He left the top 2 buttons of his crisp white shirt undone. He moves his left arm slow, protecting the poultice and bandage hidden beneath the sleeve. He looks like a dangerous, lethal aristocrat. He turns to look at her. His golden eyes widen. He stops breathing for a full second. "Well?" Mina asks, smoothing the purple silk skirt. "You look deadly," Briggs whispers. His voice is a rough, gravelly rasp. He takes a step toward her, his eyes locked on her face. "My wolf says you look like a queen. He says he wants to conquer a country just to give you the crown." Briggs takes another step forward, unable to look away from her. He walks face first into a thick glass partition wall. The smack echoes through the quiet wardrobe room. Briggs recoils, grabbing his nose with both hands. He groans, bending forward. Mina bursts out laughing. She covers her mouth, her shoulders shaking. "Are you okay, you big bad alpha?" "I am fine," Briggs grumbles, his voice muffled behind his hands. "My wolf distracted me. He is a menace." Chapter 14. Briggs drops his hands from his face. A thin line of blood trickles from his left nostril. He pulls a white silk handkerchief from the pocket of his stolen black coat and wipes the blood away. He glares at the glass partition. "I meant to do that," Briggs says. "It was a tactical maneuver. I was testing the structural integrity of the glass." "Sure you were," Mina says, fighting a smile. She walks over to a vanity table near the door. A collection of decorative masquerade masks sits on a silver tray. Mina avoids the tray, using her sleeve to pull a black lace half mask from the pile. She hands a plain black leather domino mask to Briggs. "Put this on. Corvus has seen your face on bounty posters." Briggs ties the leather mask around his eyes. It starkly contrasts with his pale skin and dark hair. He offers her his right arm. Mina loops her hand through the crook of his elbow. They step out of the wardrobe room and walk down the grand corridor. The sound of string music drifts through the halls, growing louder with every step. Crystal chandeliers cast warm, golden light over the polished marble floors. They reach the entrance of the main ballroom. 2 guards in dark crimson uniforms stand at the grand double doors. Briggs squares his shoulders, lifting his chin. He radiates cold, arrogant authority. The guards do not even ask for invitations. They simply bow and open the heavy doors. The ballroom is a sensory overload. Hundreds of guests swirl across the floor in bright silks and velvet coats. The ceiling arches high above, painted with murals of ancient constellations. Waiters carry trays of crystal champagne flutes through the crowd. "We need to blend in," Briggs whispers, leaning close to her ear. The perimeter guards are watching the crowd edges. The safest place is the center of the room. Before Mina can argue, Briggs steps forward. He pulls her onto the polished dance floor. He wraps his right arm around her waist and takes her left hand in his. He steps into the rhythm of the waltz without missing a beat. He moves with shocking grace, his footwork precise and smooth. "You know how to waltz?" Mina asks, letting him guide her through a sweeping turn. "Alphas learn diplomacy," Briggs says, keeping his gaze fixed above her head. "We attend pack summits. Dancing is just combat with music. Now listen to me. I have a 10-point plan to dismantle this operation." 10 points? Mina raises an eyebrow. That seems complicated. "I am a thorough strategist," Briggs replies. He spins her to avoid a couple in bright yellow silk. Point 1. We identify the archive room. It should be located in the east wing near Corvus's private study. Point 2. We map the guard patrol routes. They rotate every 15 minutes. Point 3. We locate the magical wards on the vault door and disable them. He pulls her closer. The heat radiating from his chest warms the cool silk of her gown. Point 4. Briggs continues, his voice dropping to a low murmur. We extract the magical conduit schematics to prove Corvus is draining the covens. Point 5. We find the physical machine in the basement. Point 6. You use your fire hex to melt the primary iron gears. Mina listens, genuinely impressed. He maps out the infiltration with flawless logic. He accounts for the guards, the locks, and the escape route. He is brilliant. Point 7, Briggs says. He dips her back, holding her steady with his strong arm. He brings her back up. We set a secondary fire in the west wing as a distraction. Point 8. We confront Corvus. Point 9. We break his jaw. Point 10. We exit through the weeping gargoyle and vanish into the woods. That is a very good plan, Mina says. Flawless, actually. Briggs looks down at her. His golden eyes shine behind the black leather mask. A proud, cocky smile spreads across his face. He opens his mouth to accept the compliment. My wolf wants to know if you like my new shoes, Briggs blurts out. Mina blinks. She stares at him. What? Briggs groans. He drops his forehead against hers. They continue to sway to the music, but his commanding aura evaporates. He ruined it. I gave you a brilliant tactical masterpiece, a flawless 10-point operation, and my wolf interrupts to ask about footwear. They are very nice shoes, Briggs, Mina whispers, trying not to laugh. He says they pinch his toes, Briggs complains, keeping his forehead against hers. But he is willing to endure the pain because they make his calves look fantastic. Please tell me my calves look fantastic so he will shut up. Your calves are adequate, Mina says. Briggs lets out a sharp huff of breath. Adequate. He is devastated. He is writing a tragic poem right now. He rhymes adequate with sad sweat. I cannot live like this. You will survive, Mina says. She turns her head, glancing over his shoulder. Her smile fades instantly. Her blood runs cold. Briggs, stop talking. Look behind you. Chapter 15. Briggs spins Mina around, positioning himself between her and the threat. He keeps his right hand firmly on her waist, maintaining the illusion of a dancing couple. Standing at the edge of the dance floor is Lord Corvus. The Uptown lord is tall and gaunt, with sharp cheekbones and slick, pale blonde hair. He wears a tailored suit of dark crimson velvet. He watches the crowd with cold, calculating gray eyes. Mina's gaze drops to Corvus's right hand. Resting on his index finger is a heavy gold band set with a square purple amethyst. The ring, Mina whispers, her voice shaking with sudden fury. That is Elias's ring. He took it off his corpse. Briggs grips her waist hard. His fingers dig into the silk of her gown. It is a sharp, physical warning. Do not react. Keep your face neutral. We stick to the plan. Corvus steps onto the dance floor. The surrounding couples part for him, giving the lord a wide berth. He walks straight toward Mina and Briggs. He stops a few feet away, a thin, polite smile on his face. I do not recognize you, Corvus says. His voice is smooth, like oiled glass. He looks Briggs up and down. And I know every noble family within the Uptown grid. Take off your masks. Briggs does not flinch. He drops Mina's hand but keeps his arm around her back. He stands tall, projecting an aura of immense, crushing authority. We prefer to keep them on, Briggs says, his tone bored and slightly annoyed. The air in this city is dreadful. We wear the masks to filter the stench of the commoners outside your walls. I am Lord Harrison of the Pine Ridge. This is my companion. Corvus raises a pale eyebrow. Pine Ridge? That is a fringe territory. Nothing but loggers and dirt farmers out there. How did a fringe lord afford a suit of that cut? By trading in iron, Briggs counters without missing a beat. The market is volatile, but certain parties pay a premium for unmarked iron shipments. Parties who wish to avoid the council's tariffs. I suspect you know a great deal about unmarked shipments, Lord Corvus. Corvus narrows his eyes. The polite smile vanishes. Briggs hits a nerve. Corvus runs illegal shipments through shell companies. Mentioning it is a direct challenge. You speak bold words for a guest, Corvus says, stepping closer. Mina feels the magic flare in her chest. A hot, angry pressure builds behind her ribs. She wants to scream. She wants to raise her hands and blast the smug look off Corvus's face with a wall of purple fire. She stares at the gold and amethyst ring on his finger. Briggs feels her tense. He squeezes her waist again, anchoring her to the floor. I speak the truth, Briggs says. The economic structure of your district is failing. You rely on alternative power sources to keep these lights burning. It is sloppy. A true leader relies on sustainable resources, not temporary fixes. Corvus stares at Briggs. He searches for a flaw in the disguise, a crack in the arrogant, noble facade. The tension between the two men is thick enough to cut with a knife. The music swells around them, but the silence between them is absolute. Corvus opens his mouth to demand their removal. A waiter in a white coat steps between them, holding a silver tray loaded with small wooden skewers of roasted meat. "Appetizers, my lords?" the waiter asks, oblivious to the lethal standoff. Briggs looks at the tray. He freezes. The arrogant, noble facade drops completely. His golden eyes widen behind the black leather mask. "My wolf needs to know if those appetizers are organic," Briggs blurts out, pointing a finger at the meat skewers. Corvus blinks in pure confusion. "What?" "The meat," Briggs says, his voice loud and deadly serious. "He says it looks a little dry. He is very particular about his diet. We are willing to compromise if the livestock was free range, but if this is factory-farmed beef, he is going to throw a tantrum." The waiter stares at Briggs, terrified. It is venison, my lord, from the king's forest." "Venison," Briggs repeats. He looks at Mina. "Did you hear that? Venison. He accepts this offering. Take 2 skewers." Mina stares at him. She reaches out with a shaking hand and takes 2 wooden skewers from the tray. Corvus shakes his head, baffled. The sharp, dangerous tension of the conversation is ruined. He looks at Briggs like the man is a lunatic. "Pine Ridge must be a very strange place," Corvus mutters, rubbing his temples. "Enjoy the venison, Lord Harrison. Excuse me." Corvus turns and walks away, disappearing into the crowd of dancers. Briggs lets out a long breath. That was close. "You asked the villain if his snacks were organic," Mina says, clutching the meat skewers. "It was a tactical distraction." Briggs defends himself, his face flushing red. "My wolf panicked. He did not like the way Corvus was looking at you. He wanted to bite his head off. The meat was a compromise. Now eat the venison and let us find the library." Chapter 16. Mina shoves the venison skewers into Briggs's hand. He eats both of them in one bite, chewing the meat off the wood as they slip away from the crowded ballroom. They leave the music behind, stepping into the quiet, carpeted corridors of the East Wing. Briggs takes the lead. He moves fast, checking around corners before gesturing for Mina to follow. They encounter a pair of guards patrolling near a set of heavy oak doors. The guards carry crossbows. Mina steps out from behind a marble pillar before Briggs can stop her. She points 2 fingers at the men. "Somnus!" A wave of faint purple dust shoots from her hand. It hits the guards in the face. Their eyes roll back and they collapse to the carpet floor, snoring loud. "That is very convenient," Briggs says, stepping over the sleeping men. He walks to the heavy oak doors. He turns the brass handle. It does not move. Locked. Standard mechanical tumbler. "I can melt it," Mina offers, raising her hand. "Do not waste your magic," Briggs says. He grabs the brass handle with his right hand. He plants his boots on the floor and twists. The sound of snapping metal echoes in the quiet hall. He shatters the lock mechanism with sheer grip strength. He pushes the doors open. They step into the private archives. The room is dark and smells of old paper and dust. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves line the walls. A heavy mahogany desk sits in the center of the room, covered in loose papers and empty ink bottles. "Start searching the desk," Briggs says, closing the broken doors behind them. Mina walks to the desk. She rifles through the papers. Most are trade agreements and tax ledgers. "Nothing about the covens here." Briggs walks around the room, tapping his knuckles against the wooden bookshelves. He stops near a section of books about local history. He taps the wood. It sounds hollow. He grabs the edge of the bookshelf and pulls. The entire shelf swings outward on hidden hinges, revealing a dark alcove. Inside the alcove sits a heavy iron floor safe. "Found it," Briggs says. He drops to his knees. The safe has a complex combination dial. Briggs does not bother with the numbers. He wedges his fingers into the gap between the heavy iron door and the frame. He grunts, the muscles in his back and shoulders straining against the black suit jacket. The iron groans, bends, and finally snaps. Briggs rips the safe door clean off its hinges and drops it onto the carpet. He reaches inside and pulls out a thick, leather-bound folder. He stands up and drops the folder onto the mahogany desk. Mina opens it. The pages are filled with complex mechanical drawings and lines of dense mathematical equations. Purple ink marks the margins. "These are Elias's notes," Mina says, her voice tight. "Corvus stole them to build the machine." Briggs leans over her shoulder, studying the math. His eyes scan the complex formulas. He reads the equations with lightning speed. "This is worse than we thought," Briggs says. His voice is cold and clinical. "Look at this equation here. He is calculating the conversion rate of raw witch magic into grid electricity. It is incredibly inefficient. The drainage process loses 80% of the energy to heat waste. To power the Uptown grid, Corvus has to cycle the magic fast." "What does that mean?" Mina asks, staring at the confusing numbers. "It means he is draining 3 witches a month just to keep the lights on in this estate," Briggs says. He points to a blueprint on the next page. "And this is the machine, the conduit. It acts like a giant magical battery. It is located right below us in the sub-basement. We find the main pressure valve, melt it, and the whole system explodes." Mina stares at the blueprints. The reality of the slaughter hits her. 3 witches a month. Her people used as fuel for chandeliers and music. Her hands shake. Briggs notices her shaking. He stops pointing at the math. He stands up straight and clears his throat. "Mina," Briggs says, his voice completely changing tone. "Do you think I would look good with a mustache?" Mina snaps her head up. She stares at him stunned. "Are you joking right now?" "No, I am serious," Briggs says, rubbing his clean-shaven jaw. "My wolf says a mustache would make me look distinguished, like a scholar or a walrus. He cannot decide which is better. He says if I grow a mustache, Corvus will respect me more." Mina stares at the chaotic, ridiculous alpha. The heavy, dark weight in her chest lifts just a little. She lets out a tired, exasperated sigh. "If you grow a mustache," Mina says, closing the leather folder, "I will hex it off your face." "Thank you," Briggs says, looking genuinely relieved. "I told him it was a terrible idea. Now I will tuck this folder under my coat. We are going to the basement to break a battery." Chapter 17. Briggs slides the thick leather folder beneath his black suit jacket, buttoning the fabric over his chest to secure the stolen blueprints. He points a finger down the quiet corridor. "The stairs to the sub-basement are at the end of this hall. Keep your footsteps light." Mina lifts the heavy hem of her plum-purple silk gown. She follows him through the silent east wing. The string music from the ballroom above fades into nothing, replaced by the damp, hollow echo of the lower estate. They turn a corner and find a narrow spiral staircase carved from dark gray stone. Briggs takes the lead. His black leather boots make no sound on the stairs. They descend deep into the earth. The air grows freezing cold. The polished marble walls give way to rough, wet brick. They reach a wide landing at the bottom of the stairs. Iron braziers cast flickering orange light across the stone floor. Briggs stops dead. He holds out his right arm, pressing his hand against Mina's stomach to halt her. He tilts his head, his golden eyes scanning the shadows. "We have company," Briggs whispers. Footsteps echo from the dark corners of the landing. 6 guards step into the orange light. They wear dark crimson uniforms and carry heavy crossbows, the weapons aimed right at Briggs's chest. A 7th figure steps out from behind a stone pillar. He does not wear a uniform. He wears a plain brown coat over a white shirt. He has sharp, rat-like features and bright yellow eyes. A shifter. Briggs stiffens. The arrogant noble facade cracks, revealing the lethal predator beneath. "Dane, what are you doing here?" Dane smiles. It is a cruel, crooked expression. "Lord Corvus pays well, Alpha. He knew someone would try to hit the archives tonight. I just didn't expect to catch you wearing a fancy suit." You sold out, Briggs says. His voice drops into a dangerous, feral growl that vibrates the stone floor. You betrayed the Crescent Pack. You gave Corvus our patrol routes. You helped him hunt the covens. The covens are dead anyway, Dame sneers, drawing a short iron blade from his belt. I chose the winning side. Corvus promised me a seat on the Uptown Council. Take them alive. The Alpha is worth double. Briggs moves. He doesn't hesitate or wait for a strike. He drops low, ducking under the first volley of crossbow bolts. The wooden shafts shatter against the brick wall behind him. He launches himself at the closest guard. He grabs the man's uniform collar and throws him across the room like a rag doll. The guard hits a stone pillar with a sickening crunch and slumps to the floor. Mina raises her hands. Ignis! A blast of purple fire shoots from her palms, catching a second guard in the chest. The man screams, dropping his weapon and stumbling backward into the dark. Briggs spins, kicking the crossbow out of a third guard's hands. He moves with terrifying speed, a blur of pure violence in a tailored black suit. He punches a fourth guard in the ribs, snapping bones with a sharp crack. Drop the nets! Dane shouts, backing away from the fight. A loud mechanical clatter echoes above them. Mina looks up. Hidden panels in the stone ceiling slide open. Briggs, look out! Mina yells. Thick, heavy nets woven from pure silver wire drop from the dark ceiling. Briggs shoves Mina hard to the right. She falls to the stone floor, her silk gown tearing at the knee against the rough ground. The push saves her, but it puts Briggs right in the center of the trap. Two silver nets crash down over his broad shoulders. The metal bites into his suit coat, slicing through the fine fabric. The silver touches his bare neck and jaw. Briggs roars in agony. The sound bounces off the walls. Thick, foul-smelling smoke pours from his back and arms. The silver burns him on contact, melting his unnatural strength. He drops to his knees, fighting to keep his head up, gasping for air. Dane walks forward. He kicks Briggs in the chest, knocking the Alpha flat on his back. Mina scrambles to her feet, raising her hands to cast another hex. Two guards grab her arms from behind. They slam cold iron cuffs around her wrists. The heavy iron breaks her focus. The purple sparks die in her palms. Get up, Dane orders, pointing his boot at Briggs. Briggs coughs. He forces himself onto his hands and knees. The silver nets smoke against his ruined suit. He looks up at the traitor. His golden eyes burn with fury, but a dark smirk twists his lips. Dane, Briggs says, his voice rough and breathless. Your mother would be disappointed in your life choices. Dane scowls. He grabs a fistful of Briggs's dark hair and yanks the Alpha to his feet. Shut up and walk. Corvus has a cell waiting for you. The guards push them down a long, dripping tunnel toward the dungeons. The air is freezing and bitter. Briggs limps, the silver eating at his flesh, but he refuses to stay quiet. Seriously, Dane, Briggs says, spitting a mouthful of blood onto the cobblestones. Who cuts your hair? It looks terrible. Did you use a rusty spoon? I said shut up, Dane snarls, walking behind them with his blade drawn. My wolf is offended by your bangs, Briggs continues, ignoring the burning silver. He says you look like a wet rodent. He wants to know if you groom yourself with a lawnmower. It lacks symmetry. You lack symmetry, Dane. Dane strikes Briggs in the back of the head with the heavy iron pommel of his blade. Briggs stumbles forward, crashing into the stone wall. He catches his balance, turning his head to look at the traitor with a bloody grin. Truth hurts, Dane, Briggs laughs, a dark, crazy sound. Just like that haircut. Chapter 18. The guards shove Mina into a dark, freezing cell and slam the solid iron door shut. The heavy lock clicks into place. Footsteps echo down the corridor as Dane and his men walk away, leaving the dungeon in silence. Mina stands in the pitch-black room. The air holds a bitter chill that seeps right through the thin silk of her plum-purple gown. The iron cuffs were removed before she was thrown inside, but the solid door offers no escape. She reaches into the structured bodice of her dress. Her fingers brush against the cold metal of Master Elias's gold locket. It is safe. She walks to the wall and presses her hands against the damp stone. "Briggs, are you there?" A voice filters through the thick rock. "Left, right, left. Keep the line straight, Corporal. You are dragging your tail." Mina blinks in the dark. She presses her ear closer to the wall. "Briggs, what are you doing?" "I am conducting drills," Briggs says. His voice sounds exhausted, rasping with pain from the silver burns, but his tone is dead serious. "My troops lack basic discipline. I am trying to teach these mice how to do a military march. My wolf says we need an army to take the sub-basement. The mice are very uncoordinated." Mina leans her forehead against the stone and lets out a long, tired sigh. "You are training rodents." "They have potential," Briggs argues through the wall. "They just need leadership. And cheese. Do you have any cheese hidden in that fancy dress? A crumb would really boost morale." "No, I don't have cheese in my ball gown," Mina says, shaking her head. "Are you okay? Did they take the silver nets off?" "Yes, the guards took the nets," Briggs says. "They took them back. Silver wire is expensive, and my thrashing was tearing the links apart. My suit is ruined. The jacket looks like a shredded curtain. But I still have the leather folder hidden under the lining. Dane didn't search me. He was too angry about my comments regarding his bangs." "You provoked a man holding a weapon," Mina scolds him. "You could have been killed." "I am an alpha," Briggs replies, a hint of arrogance returning to his voice. "I don't die from bad haircuts. How is your cell? Is it cold? My wolf is pacing in a circle right now. He hates that you are locked in a damp room." "I am fine," Mina lies, wrapping her arms around her chest to stop her shoulders from shivering. "You are shivering," Briggs says instantly. "I can hear your teeth chattering through the wall. My wolf is screaming at me. He wants to break through this stone and give you his suit jacket. I told him the jacket is full of holes and smells like burnt hair, but he doesn't care. He says a mate must provide warmth." Mina feels a sudden strange heat bloom in her chest, pushing back the chill of the dungeon. It feels like a punch to the gut. The chaotic, ridiculous alpha is sitting in a dark cell covered in chemical burns, and he is worried about her being cold. "Tell him thank you," Mina says softly. "But I don't need a jacket. I need a way out. I need to get to that machine." "The door is solid iron," Briggs says, his tone shifting back to the tactical planner. "The lock mechanism is thick. I can't break it from the inside without a running start, and the cell is too small. We are stuck until the guard shift changes." "We aren't waiting for a shift change," Mina says. She steps away from the wall. She pulls the heavy gold locket from her bodice. The metal feels warm against her skin. Without her enchanted oak broom, she needs a physical object to focus her raw magic, or the spell will backfire and burn her hands. The gold casing of the locket is perfect. "Briggs, stand back from your door," Mina calls out. "I am going to make some noise." "What are you doing?" Briggs asks. "I am breaking us out," Mina says. She grips the gold locket in her right hand and walks toward the solid iron door. "Tell your troops to cover their ears." "The mice don't have hands," Briggs yells back. "Mina, wait! The guard is right outside my cell." Mina doesn't listen. She presses the gold locket directly against the heavy iron lock mechanism. She closes her eyes and draws a deep breath, pulling the anger and fear from her chest. "Funde," she whispers. Purple light explodes from her hand, blinding in the pitch-black cell. Chapter 19. The magic channels through the heavy gold locket, amplifying the heat of the hex. A torrent of brilliant purple sparks erupts from Mina's grip, raining down like bright welding slag. The sparks hit the solid iron lock mechanism. The iron groans. The lock glows a dull cherry red, then shifts to a blinding white-hot glare. In seconds, the thick metal turns to liquid. The melted iron drips onto the stone floor with a violent sizzle, pooling like glowing water. Mina steps back, her chest heaving. She slips the hot gold locket back into the safety of her bodice. She raises her right boot and kicks the center of the iron door with all her strength. With nothing holding it in place, the heavy door swings outward. It crashes off its hinges and slams onto the corridor floor with a deafening boom. Mina steps out of her cell. The dungeon corridor is lit by a single flickering torch. She walks down the hall to the next cell. The iron door is still locked tight. Sitting inside, leaning casually against the bars, is Briggs. His black suit jacket hangs in ragged strips, exposing red, blistered silver burns across his chest and shoulders. But his golden eyes are bright and alert. Slumped on the floor outside Briggs's cell is a guard in a crimson uniform. The man is out cold, snoring loud. "You broke out," Briggs says, crossing his arms over his torn chest. "My wolf is very impressed. He says you look like an avenging angel, a dusty, angry angel in a torn purple dress. He wants to write a song about it." Mina points at the unconscious guard on the floor. "Did you knock him out?" "Yes," Briggs scowls, glaring at the sleeping man. "He walked too close to the bars when your door exploded. I reached through and hit him. But honestly, I am just annoyed because the man has terrible breath. He smells like sour milk and old onions. My wolf wanted to bite his nose off just to end our suffering." Mina shakes her head, hiding a smile. She steps over the snoring guard. She pulls the gold locket out again and presses it against the lock of Briggs's cell. "Funde," she whispers. The purple sparks fly again. The lock melts into a puddle of glowing slag. Briggs kicks the door open and steps into the corridor. He rolls his shoulders, wincing slightly as the torn fabric rubs against his fresh burns. He reaches into the inside pocket of his ruined jacket and pulls out the thick leather folder. "I kept the blueprints safe," Briggs says, tapping the leather. "The sub-basement is at the end of this corridor. The magical conduit is down there." "Are you ready to fight?" Mina asks, looking at his injuries. "Corvus will have his entire private army guarding that machine." "I am always ready to fight," Briggs says. The chaotic humor vanishes from his face, replaced by a cold, terrifying calm. He steps over the guard and walks toward the heavy wooden door at the end of the hall. "Stay behind me. If things get messy, find the main pressure valve and melt it. I will handle the guards." Briggs kicks the wooden door open. They step onto a metal catwalk overlooking a giant, cavernous room beneath the estate. The sub-basement is a nightmare of engineering. In the center of the room stands the magical conduit, a towering machine built from black iron gears and massive glass tubes. The tubes pulse with a sickly, stolen light, humming with the drained magic of innocent witches. The heat in the room is oppressive, smelling of hot metal and grease. Standing in a tight formation around the base of the machine are 20 guards. They hold heavy iron swords and loaded crossbows. "There they are!" a guard shouts, pointing up at the catwalk. "Kill the Alpha!" "We need a distraction," Mina says, her heart slamming against her ribs. "You can't fight 20 men in a choke point." Briggs turns to her. He drops the leather folder onto the metal grating of the catwalk. He unbuttons his white shirt, popping the buttons off the fabric. "I am the distraction," Briggs says. He jumps over the catwalk railing, plummeting 20 feet toward the stone floor below. Mid-air, a sickening crunch of breaking bones echoes through the cavern. His ruined black suit tears into flying scraps of cloth. He hits the ground not as a man, but as a giant, ferocious black wolf. He snarls, a sound that shakes the glass tubes of the machine, and charges directly into the wall of armed guards. Chapter 20. The black wolf tears into the front line of the guards like a wrecking ball. He bites a heavy iron crossbow clean in half, spitting the metal shards across the stone floor. He uses his heavy frame to bowl over 3 men at once, his golden eyes burning with feral rage. But there are too many of them. The guards regroup, drawing their iron swords and circling the wolf. Up on the catwalk, Mina refuses to watch him die. She closes her eyes and digs deep into the forgotten teachings of her coven. She reaches for a forbidden spell, the blood bond. Mina bites down hard on her own thumb. Copper blood coats her tongue. She raises her bloody thumb and traces a harsh, jagged rune across her forehead. "Mutare!" she screams, throwing her arms wide. A pillar of blinding purple light crashes down from the cavern ceiling, engulfing her body. The magic does not break her bones. It weaves around her, building physical form from raw power. Thick, glowing white fur erupts along her arms. Her jaw extends. Her vision sharpens, colors fading into crisp, high-contrast grays and whites. The purple light shatters like glass. Mina stands on the catwalk, transformed. She is a sleek, solid white wolf made of pure, physical witch magic. She doesn't pause. The white wolf leaps from the catwalk, sailing through the air, and lands directly on top of a guard sneaking up behind Briggs. She crushes the man under her paws, her magical weight hitting like a falling anvil. Briggs turns his heavy black head. He sees the glowing white wolf. He lets out a joyful, booming bark that echoes over the clash of metal. The two wolves fight side by side. It is a messy, brutal dance of teeth and claws. The black wolf provides raw, crushing power. He grabs a guard by the uniform collar and throws him into a stack of wooden crates. The white wolf provides blinding speed. She darts between the guard's legs, knocking them off balance and dodging sword strikes with impossible agility. A guard lunges at Briggs with a spear. Mina intercepts, clamping her jaws around the wooden shaft and snapping it in two. Briggs follows up, slamming his heavy shoulder into the guard's chest and sending him flying. They tear the room apart. Crates splinter, swords clatter uselessly against the stone. Within 5 minutes, the fight is over. All 20 guards lie groaning on the floor, disarmed and defeated. Mina feels the magic pulling back. The 10-minute limit of the blood bond runs out. The white fur dissolves into glowing purple ash that floats up toward the ceiling. She drops to her hands and knees on the cold stone floor, returning to her human form. Her plum-purple silk gown falls perfectly back into place, untouched by the magical shift. She breathes hard, wiping sweat from her forehead. She looks up at the towering, humming machine. "We did it!" The sound of heavy paws approaches. Mina turns around. The giant black wolf trots toward her. He holds the unconscious body of the guard captain by the collar of his crimson uniform. Briggs stops right in front of her. He drops the unconscious man at her feet like a proud hunting dog returning with a duck. Then, his bushy black tail begins to wag. Fast. Thump, thump, thump. Mina stares at the giant, terrifying predator. He just dismantled an entire platoon of armed soldiers, and now he is sitting in front of her, wagging his tail, waiting for praise. "You are ridiculous," Mina says, breaking into a wide, breathless laugh. She reaches out and scratches the thick fur behind his ears. The black wolf leans his heavy head into her palm, letting out a soft, rumbling purr. "I heard that," Mina whispers, smiling. "Alphas don't purr." The wolf huffs, pulling his head back. The air shimmers around him. Bones snap in a wet, brutal crunch. A second later, Briggs kneels on the stone floor in human form. He is naked, covered in bruises and silver burns, but he has a huge, dopey grin on his face. "My wolf says he doesn't care about alpha rules," Briggs says out loud, his voice raspy. "He says you shifted into a wolf to save him. He is proposing marriage in my head right now. He wants a spring wedding. Please tell him you don't like spring weddings so he calms down." Mina laughs, picking up a fallen guard's cloak from the floor and tossing it at his bare chest. "Cover yourself, Briggs. We have a machine to melt." Chapter 21. Briggs pulls the crimson guard's cloak tight around his bare shoulders. The fabric scratches his blistered burns, but he ignores the sting. He looks up at the metal grating of the catwalk 20 feet above. "I need to grab the folder," Briggs says. "Corvus will deny everything without those blueprints. Stay by the machine." Mina nods. She steps over an unconscious guard, her plum-purple silk skirt dragging across the cold stone. She looks at the towering glass tubes of the magical conduit. The humming noise vibrates in her teeth. The scent of hot metal and grease coats the back of her throat. Briggs finds a rusted iron ladder bolted to the brick wall. He climbs fast, His muscles strain under the stolen cloak. He reaches the catwalk, scoops up the thick leather folder, and tucks it under his arm. He climbs back down, his bare feet hitting the stone floor with a quiet slap. "Got it," Briggs says. He walks toward her. "Now, find the pressure valve. We break this toy and go home." Before Mina can raise her hands, a slow, mocking applause echoes through the cavern. The heavy wooden double doors at the far end of the sub-basement swing open. Lord Corvus steps onto the stone floor. He wears his tailored, dark crimson velvet suit. He claps his hands together, the sound sharp and piercing. "Bravo," Corvus sneers. "A fringe alpha and a swamp witch. You defeated my basic security detail. I must admit, you exceeded my expectations." Briggs steps in front of Mina. He drops the leather folder onto a wooden crate. He rolls his shoulders, ignoring his injuries. "Corvus, you talk too much. Send the rest of your men down here so I can break their legs." "I do not need men," Corvus smiles. "I have a specialist." A second figure steps out of the shadows behind Corvus. Mina freezes. Her heart stops, a cold block of ice in her chest. The man wears a long academic robe. His hair is slicked back, his posture rigid. He holds a carved wooden staff topped with a glowing white crystal. He is not a purple hologram. He is real. He breathes. He walks. Master Elias. "Hello, Mina," Elias says. His voice does not sound like wind through a tunnel. It sounds normal, cold and sharp. Mina cannot breathe. She stares at the mentor she mourned for 3 years. "You are alive, but the fire, the silver blade." "Unnecessary theatrical performance," Elias sighs, smoothing the front of his robe. "I needed the coven to believe I perished. Faking a murder is much easier than explaining a career change. Lord Corvus offered me a position I could not refuse. The Uptown Council pays very well for innovation." "You built this machine," Mina whispers, horror creeping up her throat. "You designed the conduit. You let them hunt your own people." "Magic is a resource, Mina," Elias says, his tone condescending. "Our coven sat in the dirt, chanting at trees. Here, I power a city. I am pushing the boundaries of arcane science. It requires fuel. A few woodland witches are a small price for progress." Mina shakes her head. The betrayal burns through her veins like poison. The man who taught her how to cast her first spark, the man who gave her the gold locket, sold her kind to be drained in glass tubes. Corvus chuckles. He holds up his right hand, showing off the gold and amethyst ring. "He even let me keep the ring as a token of our partnership. You covens are so gullible." Briggs does not laugh. He stands perfectly still. The chaotic, babbling alpha is gone. The humorous wolf retreats, leaving only a cold, calculating predator. He stares at Elias with golden eyes that promise death. "I tried to save you," Briggs says. His voice is a low, dangerous rumble. "I fought through a dozen rogue shifters to reach your study. I took a silver bolt to the ribs 3 years ago to pull your fake corpse from the fire." "You were an unexpected variable," Elias sneers, looking down his nose at Briggs. "And you are still a nuisance. Look at you, standing barefoot in a stolen cloak. You are covered in dungeon dirt again, Alpha. You lack all refinement." Briggs reaches up and wipes a streak of ash and dirt from his jaw. He rubs the grime between his fingers and drops it onto the stone floor. He turns his head slightly, looking at Mina out of the corner of his eye. "Mina," Briggs says, his tone dead serious. "I should have let you hit me with the broom years ago. This man is a plague." "Kill them both," Corvus snaps, pointing a finger at Briggs. "I want the wolf's head on a spike. Drain the witch." Elias raises his wooden staff. The white crystal flares with blinding light. Briggs drops into a crouch, his bare feet gripping the stone. "Stay behind me, Mina. Things are about to get messy." Chapter 22. Elias swings his wooden staff. A wave of concussive force rips through the air. The blast hits the stone floor, shattering the cobblestones and sending jagged shrapnel flying toward them. Briggs moves with terrifying speed. He grabs Mina by the waist and dives behind a stack of thick iron crates. The stone shrapnel clatters against the metal, denting the heavy boxes. "He uses kinetic strikes!" Mina shouts over the noise. "He draws power from the machine!" "Then we disconnect him," Briggs growls. Corvus snaps his fingers. From the dark corners of the sub-basement, 4 elite guards emerge. They do not wear standard crimson uniforms. They wear heavy iron armor and carry long, silver-plated broadswords. The weapons gleam under the harsh lights. "Silver blades," Briggs says, his jaw tight. "Excellent. I love a challenge." Briggs bursts from behind the crates. He does not run like a man. He moves like a hunting wolf, staying low to the ground. The first elite guard swings his silver broadsword in a wide arc. Briggs drops onto his back, sliding across the slick stone floor beneath the blade. As he slides past, he kicks his bare heel upward, striking the guard's kneecap. The bone snaps. The guard falls. Briggs pops to his feet, grabs the guard's armored wrist, and twists. The silver sword clatters to the floor. Briggs punches the man under the jaw, knocking him out cold. Mina steps out from cover. She raises her hands. "Ignis!" Purple flames shoot from her palms. The fire hits the second armored guard, wrapping around his iron chest plate. The metal heats up fast. The guard screams, dropping his sword and tearing at his own armor. Elias chants a harsh incantation. He points his staff at Mina. A spear of solid white light shoots across the room. Mina dodges to the right. The light spear pierces an empty wooden crate, turning it to ash in a second. "Your forms are sloppy, Mina," Elias taunts, walking closer. "You always relied too much on raw emotion. You lack discipline." "I have plenty of discipline," Mina snaps. She reaches into her bodice and pulls out the gold locket. She points it at the ceiling above Elias. A heavy iron chandelier hangs from thick chains. "Funde!" she yells. Purple sparks hit the iron chain holding the chandelier. The metal melts. The heavy iron fixture drops straight down. Elias looks up. He curses, raising his staff to create a kinetic shield. The chandelier crashes against the invisible barrier, shattering glass and iron everywhere. The impact forces Elias to his knees, breaking his concentration. Briggs dances around the 2 remaining elite guards. He cannot touch the silver blades, so he aims for the hilts and the armor. He catches a guard's wrist, stepping inside the man's guard, and delivers a brutal elbow to the faceplate. The helm crumples. The final guard lunges, thrusting the silver broadsword toward Briggs's chest. Briggs twists his torso. The silver blade slices through the crimson cloak, grazing his ribs. Searing pain flares, and foul smoke rises from the fresh burn, but Briggs does not stop. He grabs the guard's throat with his good right hand and slams him headfirst into a brick pillar. The man slumps to the floor. Briggs turns. His breathing is ragged. Blood trickles from his side. Corvus panics. The Uptowner turns and runs toward the spiral staircase, abandoning his partner. "Hold them off, Elias! I am locking the vault!" Elias pushes the broken chandelier aside and stands up. His academic robe is torn. He glares at Mina, his face twisted in rage. "You ruined my laboratory!" Elias points his staff directly at Mina's chest. The white crystal hums, gathering a lethal charge. Mina raises her hands, but her magic is drained. She cannot cast a shield in time. A black blur crosses the room. Briggs tackles Elias from the side. The kinetic blast fires into the ceiling, bringing down a shower of dust and bricks. Briggs pins the mentor to the stone floor. The wooden staff rolls away. Elias struggles, pulling a hidden silver dagger from his sleeve. He tries to stab Briggs in the chest. Briggs catches Elias's wrist. He snarls, his golden eyes blazing with feral fury. He leans down and bites Elias directly on the shoulder. His teeth tear through the robe and sink deep into the flesh. Elias screams, dropping the silver dagger. Briggs pulls back, his mouth stained with blood. He spits onto the stone floor. He looks down at the terrified, bleeding mentor. "You taste like a bad lie," Briggs snarls. He raises his fist and drives it into Elias's jaw. The mentor goes limp, hitting the floor out cold. Chapter 23. Silence falls over the sub-basement. The only sound is the deep, steady hum of the magical drainage conduit. Briggs stands up, wiping blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. His stolen crimson cloak is ruined, torn to shreds by the fight. Fresh, blistered silver burns cover his ribs, joining the angry red marks on his back and arms. He breathes hard, his chest heaving. Mina runs to him. Her plum-purple silk gown is torn at the knee, the hem stained with blood and dirt. She grabs his good right arm. "Are you all right?" "I am fine," Briggs pants, offering a tight smile. "My wolf is very proud of that bite. He says it lacked table manners, but it got the point across. Let us finish this." A loud mechanical screech echoes through the cavern. Mina turns. The towering black iron gears of the machine begin to spin faster. The glass tubes pulse with erratic, blinding light. The hum turns into a deafening roar. "Corvus locked the vault from the control room," Briggs yells over the noise, pointing at a high window near the ceiling. "He triggered an overload sequence. The machine is pulling raw magic from the grid to purge the room. It is going to explode." The heat in the sub-basement spikes. The smell of hot metal and grease burns Mina's nose. "We need to melt the pressure valve," Briggs shouts. He runs toward the base of the machine, dodging a spray of sparks. He points to a thick iron wheel connected to the main glass tube. "Right there! Hit it with everything you have!" Mina steps forward. Her magic feels thin, exhausted from the blood bond and the fight. She grips the gold locket in her right hand until her knuckles turn white. She closes her eyes and digs into the deepest, darkest corner of her soul. She pulls the grief of her lost coven, the anger of the betrayal, and the heat of the purple fire. "Funde!" Mina screams. A blinding torrent of purple light shoots from her hands. The magic channels through the locket, amplifying the heat. The purple flames strike the iron pressure valve. The iron resists for a second, then glows white-hot. The wheel melts into liquid slag, pouring down the side of the machine. Without the valve, the pressure inside the glass tubes backfires. The stolen magic reverses flow. "Run!" Briggs yells. He grabs the leather folder off the wooden crate. He loops his good arm around Mina's waist and hauls her toward the spiral staircase. The first glass tube shatters. A shockwave of pure energy knocks them off their feet. They crash onto the bottom steps of the stone stairs. The machine rips itself apart. Black iron gears snap and fly across the room like shrapnel. A chain reaction of explosions tears through the sub-basement. Purple and white light consumes the cavern. The stone ceiling groans, unable to withstand the blasts. Huge chunks of brick and mortar rain down. Briggs drags Mina up the spiral stairs, shielding her body with his own. The stairs shake violently. Dust chokes the air. They reach the top landing just as the floor beneath them collapses. The entire east wing of the Corvus estate shudders. Fire alarms ring through the upper halls. They burst through a side door and sprint across the manicured lawns. Night air hits their lungs, crisp and cold. They do not stop running. They clear the estate walls, diving through a rusted iron gate and crashing into the dark safety of the woods. Behind them, a deafening explosion rips the roof off the east wing. A pillar of purple fire shoots into the night sky, illuminating the trees. The drainage facility is gone. Mina collapses onto the soft dirt, gasping for air. Her lungs burn. Briggs drops beside her. He tosses the leather folder onto the grass. He rolls onto his back, staring up at the smoke rising above the trees. He is covered in dirt, blood, and chemical burns. He looks like he went through a meat grinder. He turns his head to look at her. A wide, exhausted grin spreads across his bruised face. "Well," Briggs says, his voice a rough rasp, "if we survive this, I am buying you the biggest broom in the world. You deserve an upgrade." Mina lets out a choked laugh. She reaches over and hits his arm. "We did survive, you idiot." "Good," Briggs says, closing his eyes, "because my wolf is exhausted. He wants a nap and a sandwich, preferably venison. Chapter 24. They walk for hours through the dark woods. The storm from the previous night is a distant memory. The air grows crisp and still. By the time they reach the jagged rocks of the cliffside, the sky is turning a pale, bruised purple. Dawn is breaking. The ocean below crashes against the stone with a rhythmic, soothing roar. Mina drops onto a flat boulder near the edge. Her plum-purple silk gown is a ruined mess of dirt and ash. She holds the thick leather folder in her lap. It contains the proof they need to expose the Uptown Council to the High Court. The nightmare is over. Briggs stands near the edge of the cliff, looking out over the water. The morning light catches the sharp angles of his face. His bare chest and shoulders are a canvas of dark bruises and angry red burns. He wears only the remnants of the Crimson Guard's cloak tied securely around his waist. He looks wild. He looks free. He turns around and walks toward her. He stops a few feet away, shifting his weight. He rubs the back of his neck, looking unusually nervous. "The Crescent Pack will deliver the folder to the High Court," Briggs says, his voice low. "Corvus will be stripped of his title. The covens will be safe." "Thank you," Mina says softly. She looks up at him. "For everything." Briggs clears his throat. He looks at his bare feet, then back up to her face. His golden eyes soften. The chaotic, lethal predator melts away. "My wolf wants me to say something romantic," Briggs blurts out, a flush rising on his cheeks. He has been rehearsing it for the last 3 miles. He is very demanding. He wants a spring wedding. I told him spring is too muddy, but he insists. Mina smiles, her heart slamming against her ribs. "Does he have a ring?" "No, he lost his shoes. He definitely does not have a ring." Briggs groans, covering his face with his right hand. "This is going terribly. He wrote a poem. I am not reciting the poem. It rhymes ocean with devotion. It is a crime against literature." "Just say what you want to say, Briggs," Mina whispers. Briggs drops his hand. He takes a step closer. He looks down at her, his expression stripping away all the humor and chaos. He just looks at her with raw, unfiltered honesty. There is a loud thump behind him. Mina blinks. She peers behind his legs. Sprouting from the makeshift folds of the crimson cloak tied around his waist is the heavy, bushy black wolf tail. It hits the air with a rhythmic swoosh. Thump, thump, thump. Briggs closes his eyes in defeat. He does not even try to catch it this time. He just lets it wag. He is so happy right now, Briggs sighs, pointing a thumb over his shoulder at the tail. He thinks he nailed the romantic tension. I cannot control him anymore. Mina laughs. The sound rings clear and bright over the crashing waves. She stands up, leaving the leather folder on the rock. Briggs steps right up to her. He reaches out with his good right hand and gently cups her cheek. His thumb brushes away a smudge of ash from her skin. "Mina," Briggs says, his voice thick with emotion. "You are the only witch I want to yell at for the rest of my life. Ride with me. Keep my wolf in check. Let me protect you." He grins, the huge, dopey smile spreading across his jaw. His tail wags faster. Mina does not say a word. She grabs the rough fabric of his torn cloak and pulls him down. She kisses him. Briggs freezes for a split second in pure shock. Then his arm wraps around her waist, pulling her flush against his chest. He kisses her back with a fierce, hungry heat that rivals the purple fire. The taste of blood and ash fades, replaced by the scent of cedar and rain. The tail stops wagging, finally satisfied. The sun breaks over the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over the cliff. The Alpha and the witch stand on the edge of the world, bruised, battered, and evenly matched. The end. Quick favor, don't go anywhere yet. If you thought Mina was brave for smacking a feral alpha right in the jaw with a broom, wait until you meet the heroine in the next story on your screen. You have to hear this disaster unfold. Click the video on your screen right now. It is pure chaos.